Hi, this is Miss Keys. Today we're going to talk about a midpoint. And what a midpoint is it's the middle point of a segment. So think mid, middle, so middle point of a segment. Looking at problem number 1, it says E is the midpoint of segment AD. So in order to show that on the diagram on that segment that we have, remember we're going to use one tick mark to show that E is in the middle. And if E is in the middle, that means that segment AE is congruent to ED because E cut that segment AD in half. So I'm going to use one tick mark to show that both of those segments are congruent. And then the way that I'm going to write that is segment AE with a line on top of it is congruent to segment, you could either name it ED or DE. I'm going to name it ED. Number 2, P is the midpoint of segment AV. So if P is the middle point of that segment, that means P cut that segment in half. Therefore, that means that segment AP is congruent to segment PV. So I'm going to again put one tick mark on segment AP and one tick mark on segment PV. That shows that those two segments are congruent. Then we're going to write it out with symbols. AP is congruent to segment PV. Remember to put that segment line on top of the segment to show that it's a segment. Number 3, C is the midpoint of segment KH. So again, C is in the middle and it's dividing segment KH in half. Therefore, I'm going to put one tick mark on both of the segments, KC and CH, to show that those segments are congruent. And we're going to write this segment KC with a line on top of it is congruent to segment CH. Now we're going to talk about a segment bisector, and this is a point, segment, line, or plane that divides a line segment into two equal parts. Number 1, segment NL is bisected by segment UR. So remember, bisect means it cuts it in half. You have to be really careful of the wording in this. So it says segment NL is bisected by UR. That means that UR is cutting NL in half. So if I use tick marks to show that the segment is cut in half, I'm going to put a tick mark right here on LC and another tick mark on CN. Since UR cut that segment in half, that's showing that segment LC is congruent to segment NC. Number 2, segment HW is bisected, or think of cut in half, by segment GP. So that means GP is cutting HW in half. So I'm going to use two tick marks to show that segment HW is cut in half. Going to use one right here with WA and another one between A and H to show segment AH is congruent to segment AW. So I'm going to write that now. Segment WA is congruent to segment HA. Number 3, KH is bisected by segment AC. So that means segment AC is cutting the segment KH in half. So I'm going to use tick marks to show that KC and CH are congruent. And then I'm going to write it using symbols. KC is congruent to segment HC.